The Windows HDR Calibration app was updated and now we have perfect OLED black, so we can have that slider in 0 nits. So I have a question for you. Do you believe we help to move the needle? Do you believe we did it? Because man, somebody on the comments told me that. I think they listened to us, and I really want to believe that, because I would be the happiest. That's so amazing, man. You have to understand, Microsoft took like a year. They announced this app in February, back on February, and they said it is coming in that update 22H2. But they took their sweet time, so Microsoft is not is not gonna respond as fast. Do you believe that we help with this update? That they listened to the video I made and I said, hey, give the Microsoft the feedback. Did you give Microsoft the feedback? I would love to know on the comments if you really believe that, because I know I'm so happy on this channel. I've been trying to help everybody. And if you've been following me for a while and you ask me questions, you know that I answer every single question, because I feel so happy when I can really make a difference for someone that is frustrated, because after you spend so much money on this TV, on a gaming PC, on your Xbox, your PS5, man, after spending so much money, you deserve to get the best results. I was so frustrated at the beginning with this TV because I didn't know. So every time I am able to help one person, I feel amazing. But this is another level. So if the video I made, and with your help, basically is make Microsoft update this app, this is changing the planet, okay? This is having a major impact for all HDR gaming, for all the HDR gaming community, especially the OLED gaming community. So I would feel over the moon if I can really get a confirmation that what I did and so the video I made, and with your help, if we help to move the needle for this update, I would feel amazing. This is just unbelievable. So I'm gonna use this opportunity to give you an update on the app. We're gonna do the calibration together, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to explain you how Windows handles HDR. I'm gonna explain you everything that I know, what's going on when you turn on HDR on Windows, when you open a movie, a YouTube video, a video game that has sliders with native HDR, auto HDR from Windows 11. I'm gonna explain you how all of that works, because somebody asked me on the comments, and I have to I have to write too much, and then I said I'm gonna make a video explaining all of that, so you understand very well, at least with the best of my knowledge. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong in something, correct me. I've been learning about this only for 3 months, but if you follow me, you are going to get all my knowledge. Everything that I know, I'm gonna share that with you, and what I just want is to help. I might be wrong because I'm not an expert, but I don't know how long I can keep saying I'm not an expert, because I'm throwing out there fancy words. At some point I'm gonna be an expert but it doesn't matter, I'm just trying to help. So let's do the calibration together. First, make sure that when you open this app, so right click on the desktop, you go to HDR. So you can just go here on the search bar, type in HDR, Windows HDR, turn on HDR, and go to HDR calibration. You're gonna be going to this website here, and then from the website, I don't have that open. From that website, you're gonna have the option to open the app. So you open this Windows HDR Calibration app. Make sure, if you already did it, you click on update, because I was using the app and it was not updating automatically. So when people tell me on the comments, I check and the update button was available. So I click update, if it's like a 1 megabyte update, and this happens. So let's open the app and let's go through the calibration real quick, and I'm gonna explain you some things here that can help you out if you have a different TV or a different display in general. So you just click get started, and if we have an OLED TV, we're just gonna select here 0. We finally have this 0 nits option. So now on this screen we can calibrate the black level more precisely, but I would not recommend you to touch the calibration of your TV unless you see very clearly that you are crushing blacks. So let me explain you. When we open here the brightness setting, I open here brightness. By default is 50. So if I raise this to 51, I still have perfect blacks. And if I raise it to 52, boom, I no longer have perfect blacks. Of course, I cannot see that here because you need to test that on a dark room. Here I cannot see anything. So, but I would not recommend you to raise this to 51 if you see the same behavior. So basically, you turn off the lights, you get close to the screen, the default is 50, you raise this to 51, still perfect black. You raise this to 52, like happened to me, and then I no longer have perfect black. So you might think, oh, the value is 51. It might be, but I'm just gonna leave it at 50, and I've been using it like that for a while since I did the update, and it's absolutely perfect. So I would recommend you to leave it there, or you can also come here to game optimizer mode and go to fine tune dark areas when you are using VSync or VRR. And fine tune dark areas, what happened is I raised this to 3 and I still have perfect blacks. So if I raise it to 4, then I no longer have perfect blacks. So what that means is the pixels turn on, okay? But the same advice. So the difference between these fine-tuned dark areas and the brightness is these fine-tuned dark areas increases or reduces the lower end of the grayscale. That's what they tell you here on the description. So it is better to adjust the black level here so you don't affect the mid-tones as much. But I would give you the same recommendation. Just give it at 0. Leave it at 0, and in case you see you're crushing blacks or you're not happy with the visibility, then open this calibration screen, turn off the lights, and increase this number. Still perfect black, still perfect black, still perfect blacks. In 4, no longer perfect blacks, then it's 3. But I would just leave it at the default value if you don't have a problem with that. So now, on this second screen, I'm going to explain you. In case that you have a different TV or you have an LG C7, somebody asked me, that doesn't have HGIG option. So I'm gonna explain you what happened with dynamic tone mapping and with tone mapping off, okay? And I'm gonna tell you the value you should use based on my testing. So if we use dynamic tone mapping off, so this HDR tone mapping off, it doesn't mean this is misleading. It doesn't mean that the TV is not doing tone mapping. The TV is doing tone mapping, but it is not dynamic. The tone mapping range target is 4000 nits. So for this to give you 4000 nits, the value is 2200, okay? How do I know that? Because by changing this to 2200, I go to display settings and I see 4000 nits peak brightness. Now the problem with doing that, and this would work perfect, and I'm gonna explain you why it doesn't. So this would work for dynamic tone mapping or tone mapping off. The reason why this is not going to work perfect is because the games, what they are trying to output is a maximum of 1000 and something nits, 1029 nits if I remember correctly. So they are not trying Actually, I have the picture here. So if you use that value, the game is trying to output 1026 nits, okay? And that's on every single auto HDR game. So it doesn't work. It is not working. So this might be another thing that we can maybe help to fix. Maybe Microsoft can fix that in case you have a monitor or a display that can do 2000 nits, for example. You are not getting the peak brightness of your display. Why? Because even if you select a value here that is 2000 nits, the game is not going to try to output 2000 nits. So the max CLL is going to be capped at 1026 nits. So that is something else they need to fix. It's not affecting me directly because my display is up to 800, so it doesn't matter to me. So I'm just selecting there 780 for the games to try to output 797. So if I select 780 on that screen and on the following screen, the games are gonna try to output 797, which is perfect to use HGIG. But if you have a display that is 2000 nits or 1500 nits, this is never gonna go beyond 1026 nits. So it is not working. It is not working, or maybe they cannot do the auto HDR with more peak brightness, but I don't know why would that be the case. This should be working and it is not. So if you have an LG C7 and you want to, of course, that display has HDR. It doesn't have HGIG, but it has dynamic tone mapping and on and off. So you should select any value that goes beyond 980 because the games are gonna try to output 1000 nits and just use dynamic tone mapping. That would be my recommendation. And of course, if you have a different display that can do 600 or a different value, then just adjust the slider accordingly. So yeah, it doesn't work. So ideally, we want to select here 4000 nits, and then the game is gonna try to output 4000 nits. And what's gonna happen is your LG OLED, that C7 or any of the LG OLEDs, is going to do tone mapping, targeting 4000 nits, and it's gonna have a roll-off point of 250 nits. But that's not going to work very well because the games are not trying to push 4000 nits. They are below that, just 1000 nits. So just use dynamic tone mapping would be my recommendation. Or if you can pay a professional calibrator, they can use Kalman Home for LG or a different program to change the target for that dynamic tone mapping off. They can actually measure the peak brightness of your display, and what they can do is just change the target tone mapping. So just tell the display hard clip at the actual peak brightness of the display. So that's basically HGIG. A professional calibrator can do that with some apps and of course some instruments to measure, and that would be an HGIG that is even more precise than the HGIG we have on this LG C1. So I just wanted to throw that out there so you know your options if you have a different display. So what I'm gonna use here, of course, is 780 for my HGIG, and I'm gonna change it to HGIG, and you will see that it clips. And the games, by selecting 780, the games are gonna try to do 797. So the other thing you need to understand is that on Windows, when you turn on HDR, Windows is not on HDR. Windows is on SDR. So if you open a video on Google Chrome or any other app that doesn't support HDR metadata, the content is on SDR. So the display is on HDR format, but the content is not it's not going to have any HDR metadata. So for example, if you open a game that doesn't support auto HDR from Windows, basically this calibration doesn't matter. The game is gonna try to output 10,000 nits, and the only option you have is to use dynamic tone mapping, and you're gonna have the black level raised, so you have to lower that black level. You can watch the video I made about a remnant from the ashes. That video is called SDR HDR slider in Windows, how to use that for gaming. So basically, if you open any YouTube video on Google Chrome or any other app that doesn't support HDR metadata, the content is on SDR. So the TV is on HDR format, so you're gonna get that brightness, but that's not going to look very good. So if you use, for example, Microsoft Edge, if you open a YouTube video that is on HDR, that specific video is going to have the metadata for HDR, and is going to try to output the creator's intent. So if it's 4,000 nits, you're gonna use either dynamic tone mapping or tone mapping off. I like actually tone mapping off if the content is on 4,000 nits, because that's not going to give you that's not gonna have the problem of dynamic tone mapping, which gives you black level, the shadow detail, like over brighten the shadow details. I prefer dynamic tone mapping off if the content is on 4,000 nits. And of course, any other app or program that supports that is color managed. So I don't work with any of those apps, but I know that there are some apps that support color management. So any ICC profiles or this calibration is going to have an effect. But games, they are not color managed applications, and only auto HDR supported games are going to care about this calibration screen. So all the games that you open that are native HDR and they have their own sliders, they are not going to care about this calibration screen. Hopefully, moving forward, the developers, they start to support HDR on this calibration screen. So what I'm doing here is I open Batman Arkham Knight, and this is like, for me, this is the ultimate shadow detail testing to test that black level, and it is absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. So what happened here, I can see the Batman's face perfectly. I don't know if you can see it on the video. And if I use here this fine-tune dark areas and I raise it to 3, I don't need that. So that's why I'm saying it's just better to leave it at the default value. That's why. I see Batman's face here, and I don't want to raise these fine-tune dark areas to 3. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So I might be crushing a little bit, but I don't think so. It looks perfect. I can see his face, and this is the darkest shadow detail I've ever seen. Batman's face here on the menu. So let me know if you have any questions, and let me know especially if you help to move the needle, and if you think that we did it, that Microsoft listened to us and we help change the world.